Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching this broadcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Wednesday, June 10th, as we continue our march into disclosure. We've got a great episode tonight, a little bit different, folks. We've got a great guest coming in here by the name of Richard Dolan. You may have heard of him before, talking about his new and latest book, The History of USOs, Volume 2. Can't wait to get into it. On that note, let me go ahead and jump into the studio. Mike, how are you, my friend?
Oh, and now even better that we have Richard joining us. This is going to be a very interesting show, everybody. And it's good to see Richard back.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a great time the last time he was here.
Oh, absolutely. On that note, let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Welcome, Richard. How you doing, my friend? Long time no see.
Hey, Thomas. And look, everyone, hello, gang. I'm glad to be here again. Thank you.
Yeah, so you've got a new book that just hit the shelves lately, History of USOs, Volume 1. You know, it's great. I've got Volume 1 here. I haven't picked up Volume 2 yet that you just released. It's on the list from Amazon. Great thing about it, though, is you've been delving into the USO topic, which is something that doesn't get a lot of press because I guess 99.9% of humanity lives on solid ground, and there's a lot of great stuff that's happened in history over the oceans, and you've been dedicating years of your time to go ahead and bring this unbelievable knowledge forward.
It's been a fascinating adventure, honestly. I've been researching UFOs or UAP for about more than 30 years, quite a long time, and I think, like most people, I've always been interested in any kind of water-based aspect of the phenomenon. But you're right. Like, there's just been very little done about that. And a couple of years ago, someone asked me about a particular case involving the water from the 1940s. And I did a little research on it. And I thought, where are all the USO cases? Like, where are they collected? Is there a compendium for them? And there really, there wasn't anything that was immediately available or recognizable. So I just hunted around. There were a couple of websites, it turns out, that were collecting some of these. And then there were some databases, like the MUFON database and National UFO Reporting Center. And then just a bunch of old journals and old magazines and a couple of old books, and the next thing I knew, I was just really kind of vacuuming up every decent sounding USO case that I could find, and but then even from those, I felt that I was kind of selective. I really only wanted to collect cases that I thought had a reasonable spine to them. There was a story that was there, and that seemed somewhat credible. And I ended up collecting a little more than 700 of them, and I broke them into 3 volumes. So the first 2 volumes now have been published. All the data for the 3rd volume, pretty much all of that is collected, but I'll end up probably needing a year to put that together as well. So yeah, I'm very happy with this 2nd volume. And it's kind of weird because the first volume covered a lot of history. It covered the whole question of how far back does this phenomenon go? And I had to really kind of figure that out, like how reliable are the ancient cases? But I determined that to the best of my ability, and I took the story up to 1969, the end of the 1960s. So that was all of Volume 1. Volume 2 only has 2 decades. It only got the 1970s and the 1980s. And I could just hear people saying, well, what's up with that? How come there's not more years to that? But I just have to say the 1970s, I would say actually up to about the early 80s, 1983 or so, was just absolutely manic, really at the peak decade. Even though there was no internet at the time, even though reporting these things was much more difficult, it just was an incredibly active period. And so it just required it. It required a volume all of its own. And that the first volume was 400 pages. This one's 400 pages, even though it covers much less of a time span. But a lot was happening. And part of the kind of analytical problem that I found myself having was to just kind of query why, like what was so different about this time. And I'm not sure I have the full answer to it, but I did note a number of trends that started at around that time, and maybe we can get into some of that. But something important was going on during that period of time, and that's about all I can say. So it's fascinating. And then the last thing I'll just say as a way of introduction is, I really wanted to. I felt like these were just incredible events. And nearly every single one of them has been forgotten. I mean, we know some of the more famous UFO events. Everyone's heard of Roswell, and everyone's heard now the Tic Tac encounter. Some of these USO encounters, however, are every bit as dramatic and incredible. And the fact is, they happen to sometimes one person or sometimes a group of people, and then they just get forgotten. Drop down the memory hole. Right. And I thought they deserved more than that. And I really wanted to kind of bring life to every one of these cases, if nothing else. I think they deserve that. And I'm kind of happy about that. It's an extraordinary series of events when you think about it. You got the world is becoming very modern, 1970s, 1980s. There's still a big Cold War going on. You got the American Navy, you got the Soviet Navy, and then there's something else. There's this other presence that did not fit into any of the categories that were supposed to exist.
So would all your cases for USOs involve stuff coming out of the water, or were there stuff where it was just over the water?
It's everything. There's a lot of them are coming out of the water, quite a few, and quite a few controlled entries into the water as well. And then, a certain number of cases of objects that were just performing in an extraordinary manner under the water, and they didn't necessarily leave the water. Mm-hmm. And for that matter, I included a small number of cases of objects that were not necessarily or seen in contact with the water at all, but I included because they were often very, very low over the water. And if you're in the middle of the Atlantic or Pacific Ocean and there's an object 10 or 20 feet above the ocean, that's interesting enough. And particularly if it's sucking water out of a large body of a lake or an ocean. So I included some of those, but by and large, I think I have a statistic on this. I think 35 to 40% of all the cases had an object emerging from the water, and about the same percentage of objects entering the water. I think about 20% were of objects that were solely under the water, and maybe almost 10% were objects that were very, very low over the water, but which I probably think at some point probably entered the water.
Yeah. It just seems like it's a natural place to go and hide.
Yeah, well, it's an area where, as you just said in your intro, like we're not out there. Who's out in the middle of the Pacific or in the middle of a big lake for that matter? Very few of us. So you think of it this way, if there is visitation or a presence of another intelligence that is not human, but that is quite advanced, it would make sense for them not to want to interact very much with humanity. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. And yeah, I think the oceans, if you have the capability to operate down there, that's a big if, but if you do, then I think the oceans could be a very attractive place to have a base of operations, for example, or to operate on some level.
Yeah, well, if you look at it from a Earth historical timeline, the surface goes through major cataclysms every 12 to 24,000 years. So if they're coming here and they want to have long-term habitation, the safest place you could possibly be would be under the bedrock on the bottom of the oceans, because it's the water that rises up, get mile-high tidal waves that go across, and it just from, if they've always been here and they've been here for a really long time, it's the safest place they could possibly go.
Yeah, provided, of course, that they can have whatever they need to breathe and all of the other amenities. But yeah, absolutely. Under the ocean, I think you're totally right. Also, maybe inside mountains that are above the ground. I mean, there's other places where they could go. But I do think the oceans, look, the fact is, there's been way too much recorded activity of objects going into and coming out of the ocean. So I have to conclude there are bases down there. And so it makes perfect sense.
Well, it makes perfect sense because we know more about the moon than we do our own oceans here on this planet.
Yeah. That's right. I think the number is changing, but as far as scientific mapping, from what I have been told, maybe 25% of the ocean floor has been mapped to any kind of satisfactory degree, and something like 5% of the ocean's volume, which, that just sounds immense. Even 5% sounds like a lot. But basically, that's your point, like where there's a lot of that ocean that we just are not familiar with. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Really quick, have you heard of the Seabed 2030 initiative that's out there, where they're aiming to, if you want to call it re-image, the ocean of the floor globally by the year 2030?
Mm-hmm. Only recently I've become somewhat familiar with that, and I think it sounds very ambitious, and but I wouldn't put past anyone to be able to get that accomplished. But
yeah. But at least there's a data set there, and it's growing, and the more we can see it, because I know every time Google Earth releases an update, or you can get it from different satellites and actually get an updated view of the ocean, and it's like, all right, time to go ahead and scrub the coastlines of the entire planet and see what we can find.
Well, our technologies are definitely improving very rapidly now. Only recently we've just been able to develop kind of semi-autonomous or autonomous remotely operated vehicles that can go into the water and go at least somewhat deep. We still can't go very, very deep as far as I understand, but they're getting better and better at that. And, something as simple as the Malibu structure, that a lot of people have talked about. I'll have something to say on it in Volume 3. It looks like it's very likely a geological structure. This is apparently what the experts say. But the fact is, we have not gotten a remotely operated device down there, to my understanding. So that's like, I think, 2,000 feet down. And even that's a bit onerous. That's not easy to get something down there, but perhaps we'll be able to.
Come on, where's James Cameron? He's got the submersible.
Yeah, right.
Oh, he does. What about the Baltic Sea anomaly?
Yeah, that's another interesting one. And I think the jury's probably out on that still, but I have to admit, like, there are, you keep hearing about electromagnetic anomalies there, and like certain things happening at that one spot in the Baltic Sea. What's interesting about the Baltic Sea, of course, is that it's a major, like back in the day and today, it's a major tactical and strategic hotspot. That's an area where you have NATO basically almost in an undeclared war against the Russian Navy there. So there's a lot of shenanigans going on. This is where the Nord Stream pipeline was destroyed by someone. Right. And so there's a lot of global tension in that area. And it's a very difficult place to navigate through. If you really look at the Baltic Sea, it's like not easy to find open water to go through. It's a lot of choke points. So, but as far as the anomaly, I've gone back and forth on that. I never want to dismiss what the academic, scientific experts have to say on this. I think I think most of them have been wrong on the UFO matter for many years, but we ignore them at our peril. And from what I understand, I think most people still believe that that's probably a geological phenomenon, but I'm open to, any new developments on that one.
That's what they say about those giant carved structures that are off the coast of Japan that look like staircases and all different kinds of it's not megalithic, it's carved out of one piece. Almost reminds me of the methods they use in Kailash Temple to go ahead and just build something up.
There are some architectural creations that continually blow my mind as well. And I don't know how well that they've been explained. So I would not pretend that I have an expertise on a lot of that stuff, but I definitely admit it's a lot of that is very interesting to me. Exactly. And maybe let's just say anomalous in the context of our society.
Well, taking a look at the breadth of Volume 2, what would you have to say is your favorite story?
Oh man, well, there's one that I've kind of come back to many times, I guess for a good reason, and it concerns the USS John F. Kennedy aircraft carrier. It's one of the earlier cases in that book. It's from July of 1971. And essentially, it's a great case because we have the name of the guy who reported it. His name is James Kopf. We know his position. He was a communications specialist on the ship, which meant he controlled all the incoming and outgoing messages, described that in detail, and then just said what happened. The ship had gone through carrier qualifications, carrier quals as they're called, and they were just, from his description, I think they were probably just north of Puerto Rico. And you had crew members, and he's at his station, and he says the first thing I noticed is that all the communications coming into the ship were turned into gibberish. Nothing made sense. He says something was wrong here. And then he heard someone on the ship's intercom apparently just freaking out, screaming, "It's God, it's the end of the world." So that got his attention. And then he eventually left his post and he went out to see what was happening. It was about 8:30 in the evening, I believe, still somewhat light. And he sees this, along with a lot of other men, a large glowing orange-yellow sphere just hovering over the ship. He said it gave off about half the light of daylight. It was a fairly bright thing. So he got to watch it for less than 1 minute because the ship went to general quarters at his battle stations. Mm-hmm. He learned, and they stayed on battle stations for about another 20, 25 minutes. He said he learned that aircraft that were assigned to alert duty could not be started. So apparently they were going to scramble some aircraft because of this thing. And so that happened, and then the communications were down for the entire, basically a half hour. And we have no idea, or he had no idea, how the object departed or whether it went off into the air or went into the ocean. We do not know that. But it was a heck of a sighting. And then he mentioned that as they were getting into port, a few days later, the ship's captain got on the system there and just didn't refer directly to the event, but sort of indirectly reminded the crew. He said, "Some things that happen on a naval vessel are only for us, not for anyone else. Thank you for your attention." So the James Koff always believed that was about that event. But I mean, think about it. Like, this is an American aircraft carrier. So if you're the, U.S. Navy, that and your nuclear submarines are probably the most important things you've got. I mean, that is America's power of projection to the world, and something disabled its communications for about a half hour, and probably its weapon systems, from what it seemed like.
Yeah, just shows we're not in control.
No, right. And that's one of the themes that I noticed during the entire decade of the 1970s, was a lot of a very high percentage, the highest percentage, in fact, of cases of electromagnetic interference with craft, with boats, a lot of military EM cases, but also civilians as well. And to a degree that was, in terms of quantity and percentage, vastly higher than any other time period. At the same time, I noticed the times that these events occurred shifted almost exclusively to nighttime. So up until the late 1960s, mm-hmm. The cases that I found, at least, were almost 50-50 daytime versus nighttime. And I can't say definitively that, the phenomenon absolutely changed, but from the 700 cases that I collected that I thought were noteworthy, this was an absolute transformation. So that within a couple of years, by 1970, these cases were all 3/4 happening at night. And with military cases, they were 90%, almost 90% at night. So to me, that's not a random effect. To me, that sounds behavioral. That sounds like someone's decision.
Now, in the 70s, we were more in analog equipment for broadcasts and everything at that time.
I think there was a transition to digital with a lot of the, even some of the military systems. But I think basically that's right. It was still mostly analog.
Right.
I did learn that the keyhole satellite system by the late 1960s, developed a very, very advanced, sophisticated ability to kind of fine-tune its resolution from space onto the ground. Mm-hmm. But that was far more effective during daytime and not at night. And someone suggested to me that might very well be the reason why there was a nighttime switcheroo in the late 1960s. Just a guess.
No, was that a global satellite network or one particular satellite? Right.
Yeah, it was a system of satellites that the United States military was using, I think primarily through the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office, but probably, and I'm kind of out on a limb here, but probably some of the other services were able to use the keyhole data, I would imagine. So I mean, why the phenomenon went so dramatically, so suddenly to nighttime, and particularly with military cases, and why there were so many cases of electromagnetic interference, and what I've come to call data denial. That is a question I don't really have an answer to, but it absolutely seems to have been the case.
Data denial, as in the data that was recorded for these events, no longer exists?
Yeah, it's like, think about it. Let's say you're in a Navy vessel and this object comes to you, but it shuts you down. At its closest approach, like when you are wanting probably to be able to extract the most amount of data that you can out of it, it denies you that. It either shuts you down or it just departs very quickly, this kind of thing. In other words, there's a very definite pattern of behavior that I started to note when I went through like case after case. And it's really not all that different from a lot of the aerial UAP, UFO cases that, we're often familiar with. But it just seemed very obvious in the case of these USOs. They would come in, particularly with the military ones. These objects would either arise from below or they would come in from above, circle around a vessel, get close, shut down certain systems, hover for a little while, and then it's gone, just takes off. So it gives the impression, and that's all that you really can say here, of a kind of reconnaissance, surveillance, and maybe some kind of calibration. It's like, what are the humans up to now? What are they able to do? Let's take a look. That's what it seemed like to me.
Patrolling the area just to maintain a presence, to see what's happening around there.
Yeah, I think because, I'm just speculating here, but I've come to believe like they're like, let's say you're them and you're watching this, you're in this amazing planet with all this life, and there's this very interesting species that's now discovered science and technology, and it's got eyes and ears spreading in more and more places. And you got to be thinking, okay, now how are we going to deal with these guys? Because they're becoming a little more sophisticated, and we don't really want to interact with them for all kinds of reasons. So you would be monitoring their progress. You would be monitoring, like, what are they up to now? What kind of new weapon systems have they got? What kind of new communications and detection systems and so forth? And I think a lot of or at least some of the activity could reflect that type of policy. Again, just guessing.
Yeah. Or going ahead and adapting their technology as we advance and such. But if I could, yes. Daryl, you have your hand up, my friend.
Yeah, Richard, thanks so much for being here, and I apologize for the sneeze earlier.
That's fine.
My question is, you're just bringing up some of the data that you found with the USOs. I'm curious, how difficult was it to source credible historical data on USOs compared to UFOs?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say not radically different. There are what I did in this entire series is I created an evidence rating system. So every case is rated from 2 to 12. 2 is very, very weak, and 12 I rate as certain. Now, the rating system doesn't say if this is a real USO. What it says is how reliable is the source material, like how comprehensive is it, and so forth. So something that would be a 12 would have, very like government documentation or multiple journalistic accounts with, multiple witnesses and people being quoted on it. And we have exact dates, we have exact all of that. And then there are cases, and a lot of these, they're military and non-military, but people 20, 30 years after the fact, will go to a message board system and they'll just say, yeah, I served aboard this vessel back in the 1980s, and I just want to tell you this is what happened. And they won't always give their name because they don't want to. Sometimes they'll give the name of the ship they were on. A few times they won't. And so they're not as strong cases in terms of evidence. But does that mean they didn't happen? My wife has a doctor who I know very well, and she's a great lady. And this woman learned that I was doing this project, and she said, "Oh my God, I've got to tell you what happened to my father." Her father's no longer alive. But she said, my dad was a cop. My dad was a boxer. Nothing scared my father. And she said, this story lived with our family for years and years and years. Just so happened he was fishing alone on Lake Erie, not far from Buffalo, New York. It's dark out. He said a craft came out of the water, scared the living hell out of him. And nothing scared him, but that terrified him. And that's a story in her family. So there's no evidence. There's no data. But do I believe her? Yes, absolutely. I totally believe her. So I've had a lot of discussions about this in terms of evidence quality, and it is important that we get the best quality evidence available. I completely agree with that. But I've come to feel like it's a mistake if we just dismiss cases because, well, it didn't come in a FOIA request, or it's not officially acknowledged by the U.S. Navy or that type of thing. I just feel like there's a lot of very interesting stories out there, and sometimes you just have to use the smell test, and that's not always 100% accurate, but you got to do your best.
Because if it's a real case and it's something that went on, you're not going to be able to get the FOIA because they're covering it up anyway.
Very frequently. Yes, exactly.
I know this probably is in your book, but I know there was an incident up in Wisconsin that happened where there was a boat that was on one of the lakes up in Wisconsin, and this UFO was dumping like molten material out that destroyed the boat and ended up going in the local trees and stuff. That case was actually released in the Secret and Records tranche, I believe, from the U.S. government, and it details there were some 20 tons of materials that came out of that craft that were recovered.
Yeah, why did I kind of miss that when I went through that tranche, and I went through all the cases, so I'm sure I saw that one. That sounds a lot like the Maury Island case from way back in 1947, if you guys are familiar with that. Not far from Seattle during the Kenneth Arnold time. And Maury Island is this little place off near Tacoma. And someone claimed that he saw a craft that seemed to be in trouble, and it dropped a ton of molten material into the bay there and damaged his boat and supposedly killed his dog.
Oh, wow.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, but this other one happened in Wisconsin.
I don't know why I didn't. I can't remember that one.
I could be wrong. Audience will correct me if I'm wrong.
They always will.
Yeah. So,
can I ask one more question about that? Was there anything that was like, of all the evidence you saw, was there anything that was very surprising or a paradigm shift in regards to any like major case that you uncovered?
Yeah, maybe the most fun one that I uncovered. I think I have the magazine lying around here. Yeah, this is it. So this doesn't look very impressive, right? This is just like an old 1970s, tabloid kind of magazine. It's actually pretty good. So there's a USO piece in here. So anyway, I found a case in here dealing with the USS Franklin Delano Roosevelt aircraft carrier, which ended its service shortly after this event. So supposedly what happened was in May of 1975, this carrier, which had other UFO and USO encounters previous to this, but it was in the Mediterranean, an object, spherical type object comes out of the water, circles around and enters the water again. What was interesting is that I learned about this in a brief reference in the MUFON UFO Journal, very, very brief. And I hunted down the original source, and it was this magazine. And I hunted down the author of the article because it was actually an exceptionally well-written article. And the guy didn't exist. It was an F.B. Newman. So now I'm thinking, who the hell is F.B. Newman? So I'm Googling this name and I'm trying to find it out. And I learned that there is a major a U.S. diplomat and aviation historian who, as a child, had used the pen name F.B. Newman. And it was absolutely the guy. Like, there's no question. He lived in the Washington, D.C. area his whole life. This article was completely referenced from D.C. And the heck was his name? I will find it again. It's in fact, here we go. I'll find it in a minute. But it was a bit of detective work that I just thought was fascinating. And really what became obvious is that this man, here we go.
You're right. It was Maury Island.
Aha. See, there we go. So here we go. The author, yes, Robert Dorr, Robert F. Dorr, D-O-R-R.
Nice.
And he wrote something like 70 books on aviation. And he, as a kid, had used the pen name of F.B. Newman. And so he writes this article because clearly what happened, I have no doubt about this, he had his connections. He had someone who's probably aboard that ship who said, oh, my dear God, you will never believe what happened. And they told him, and he just wanted to get the information out. But he didn't want to use his actual name. Clearly, he didn't want to do that. So what did he do? He wrote about it in this essentially a throwaway magazine from the 70s. And that's that. But I think it happened.
Yeah.
I think the case happened.
You know, you call it a throwaway magazine back in the day, but sometimes that was the only way this news could be shared.
Yeah. Well, at this time in the 70s, most definitely, because there were no, it was impossible to get any kind of academic treatment on this. And even like serious books were, there were serious books written on the subject, but it's not like they were easy to find. So, there was not a lot of options. And sometimes you would write them in a magazine that would have a limited circulation. This particular magazine was called Ideals UFO Magazine. This is issue number 2. I don't think they had more than like 3 or 4 issues total before it went out. So, but Robert Dorr apparently had a connection there and got his very well-written article into this magazine, and it was promptly forgotten.
Wow.
Well, there was no internet back in the 70s, so very limited publications where you can get a story like this out.
Yeah, and they died really easily. The stories just died very easily.
Yeah,
I guess back then, yeah.
If
I have no doubt. Like, for every story that I've found, I've got to think, there are dozens and scores and maybe hundreds that I just, slip through the cracks because they just were not available to me.
But if you look at the world in the whole bit, it's huge. I know we've probably got a lot of reports from us, probably out the Soviet Union. What other countries were you seeing this kind of activity for reports? Because the world's a big place.
Yeah, you mentioned the Soviet Union, and I was fortunate because there was a book in Russian on USOs, and it was written by one of the premier Russian ufologists named Vladimir Azhaja, and his co-author is also a very, very experienced guy named Evgeny Litvinov. Both of them were Soviet submarine officers or Navy officers, so they're very sophisticated guys, and they put together I think a very good compendium, and I was able to get a digital copy and machine translation of it. So I was able to read it in English, and I used it quite extensively for a lot of the Russian-Soviet cases. One thing, no question, is that the Soviets were having all of the same encounters that the American Navy was having. All the exact same types of things. Electromagnetic interference, whether in the Far East in the Sea of Japan, or in the Sea of Okhotsk over there, or in the Arctic region north there, or in the Black Sea, or just in the wide oceans, because they were out there. They had their share of encounters, every bit as bizarre and inexplicable as the Americans were having. And then, other nations. This is the famous events in Colares, Brazil in 1977, 78. There were a couple of books written about that. back in the 70s, where this is basically the mouth of the Amazon River. So it's massive, massive amounts of water just pouring into the Atlantic Ocean from that. It's a very unique ecological area. But in the late 70s, you had residents of this area and the nearby communities experiencing months of repeated encounters with basically these luminous objects operating in the rivers, over the rivers, emerging from the rivers.
Wow.
But beyond that, this really was dangerous and actually injurious to a lot of people. Like beams of light would be directed at people in their homes, through walls, in their boats. Lots of people reporting burns and puncture marks and other kinds of physical effects following their encounters. The Brazilian Air Force did launch an investigation. It was called Operation Saucer, which documented many of those reports. And in fact, the captain, whose name was Holanda, was deeply, deeply affected by the investigation himself, and saw his own UFOs and USOs as well. So yeah, it's quite a. It's all over the world. This is everywhere in the world. Daryl asked if there are any other questions or cases that surprised me. I'll just mention one in the state of Washington from the 1980s at a place called Lummi Island, where from everything that I could determine, it seems like it was a USO retrieval by the U.S. Navy. You had, this is in July of 1984, you had a fisherman and other witnesses observing an object descending toward the waters at like 3:30 in the morning. It actually did a U-turn, this abrupt U-turn as it was coming down, and then it entered the water there, crashed into the sea. Months later, a private group of divers, they basically privately funded this recovery effort that, and two divers in a row found a metallic disc-shaped object embedded in the seabed.
How large was it?
About 30 feet in diameter, they said. It's a decent size. And this was written about actually in a couple of local publications at the time. And then it was subject to some a very good investigation a couple of years later by a local resident there. And anyway, so what happened was one guy is literally standing on this UFO under the water. He's like getting all excited. Apparently they had some kind of ability to project this on a screen on the boat. So other people saw this, but it was too late. Oxygen was low. And in fact, that diver had a mild case of the bend, so they had to get him out. And the next day or 2 days later, they went back and it was gone. And there were reports of Navy activity in the area. And the story is, or at least the belief was, that the U.S. military recovered that object. I think probably if I had to bet money, that's what I would bet happened. I think the U.S. Navy got that. So USO recovery, 1984.
Nice. Hopefully we'll get some records on that.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, I rated that one actually a 12. I mean, there's no question this happened. We have names of all the people involved. We've got the U.S. Coast Guard was absolutely involved in the initial phases of this. Like this thing happened. And so really the question is, what was that? Some people said, probably it was just a meteorite. Doesn't seem like that, particularly if you account for what the private divers claim that they saw. But we may never get to the bottom of it. Who knows? Maybe a FOIA can unravel some of that.
Did we talk about the Franklin Roosevelt incident yet?
I mentioned the USS FDR case from 1975.
Right.
And I'll bet you in our previous interview, we probably talked about the FDR. There were some very interesting cases that happened with that vessel in the 1950s.
Interesting.
So a lot of stuff going on with that.
Was that a nuclear?
I mistakenly thought that it was, and it turns out it was not. So that I was wrong about that. In fact, I did a video on that just like a month or two ago, and a couple of very nice military guys said, Nice try, Richard, but it was not nuclear powered. I thought it was. Don't know why I thought that, but it was a mistake.
And there was another incident you talked about off of Kamchatka in Russia, where there was a an SKR-3 was patrolling in the area.
Yeah. In fact, I did a little thing on that one just a couple of weeks ago as well, and that's a short little event, but it absolutely does seem like this object emerged from the water. It was in 1982. Soviet officer, we have his name. It was Sokolov. I don't know his first name, but it was written about by a number of Russian UFO researchers shortly after the demise of the Soviet Union, when a lot of this information came out. And it was in, I think that's the Sea of Japan, right off Kamchatka. Or no, not the Sea of Japan. It was in the Pacific, just off the east coast of Kamchatka, so close by there. And he stated this object was much larger than their frigate was, maybe 2 or 3 times as long, maybe, I can't remember, 300, 400 meters, like very large.
Huge.
And emerging out of the water without any noise, very slowly. It hovered at a fairly low altitude, and then he said, I saw these 4 lights go on one end, which he thought were like engines, and the thing just took off after that, and it was gone. And he talked a little bit about the reporting procedures after that. Said a couple of people made jokes about it. No surprise there. And he actually described, he said, we had a reporting system that did describe USOs to some extent, but only objects that entered water. He said, I didn't find any categories for objects that emerged from the water, which I found surprising because in my research, I came across a number of Soviet cases where objects emerged from the water. So I'm not really sure what to make of that. In any case, that was what
information compartmentalization, meaning different groups. They try to keep everyone from talking about it, but also the conversation between other groups was potentially limited.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good supposition, and maybe that may very well be what happened, because they were having some. They had every bit as many transmedium objects emerging from the water as I think the U.S. Navy was seeing, just about. And other nations too. There was a pretty interesting one from Chile, the Chilean Navy, which is not a huge navy, but hey, they got a navy. And I think in around 1970 or 71, there was a Chilean officer who later became I think he became an admiral. He did a televised interview years later where he talked about this. But essentially, there was objects that, I may be getting my cases mixed up here now. I might be thinking of something in the 60s. I think this is in the 70s. It emerged from the water, caused some electrical interference with his vessel as well, and then took off. These things are everywhere. Really, the only gaps that I find is really in the reporting. I think the activity is it's around the world. I don't really think there's a place where these things don't appear.
I'm curious, do you think is it the same phenomenon, or are we talking fish people?
I think it's the same phenomenon as aerial UFOs, personally. I mean, the shapes of the craft are basically the same. You'll get disc shaped, you'll get spherical, you get a couple of triangular shaped craft, you get some cigar shaped craft. That's, all the things that people report when they're on land looking above. So there's no difference there. There's really no radical difference in the behavior as well that I could see. In other words, they're here real fast, and they do what they do, and then they're gone. They do not allow. I just saw someone wrote there. That's crazy. They do not allow interaction by us, and they do not allow us really to interfere with them. They do what they do, and they get the hell out. That's what it seems like. So I don't think they're fish people. I think they're intelligences, beings from elsewhere, and I don't know where that elsewhere is. Another planet, another place that I can't figure out. I'm not sure. Maybe another planet, but they're here. And this world, I think, is very interesting and probably important. You know, people like to diminish our world and our species. They'll say, well, why would aliens be interested in us? We're just, you know, little peons engaged in tribal warfare. But I don't think it really does justice to the situation. We have an amazing planet. We don't just have life. We have this super abundance of incredible amounts of diverse life. I mean, Earth is amazing. No matter, I can't imagine.
Almost like a curated collection.
or a place that took 4 billion years for life to develop. Could be that as well.
And how many billion of those years have they been here?
Have we been here?
No, them.
Well, right. We have no idea. But I think they've been able to find us. They're able to observe this world. And I think we have gotten to a point where what we do is becoming consequential. And I think that's why they're probably watching us. You know, just a couple of centuries ago, we were all horses pulling wooden carts, and now we are not only have we, you know, split the atom, but we're sending things out into space, and we can blow up the planet, and we are all in communication all at once, and we've got all this massive amount of data now that we're processing. I mean, this is, you know, we're going through some kind of exponential crazy time right now. And now we're developing artificial intelligence, and who the hell knows where this is going to go. So I think they're watching us thinking, okay, these people, they're making a big leap. They're still crazy. They still are violent. They're still constantly at war. They still have a very fragile global infrastructure, and it may not survive. But let's watch them. I suspect that's what they're doing.
Yeah, but I guess watching, but it's been said many times, we're not the top of the food chain. We're not the apex predator on this planet based on the capabilities the craft have potentially seen before. So we're seeing them coming from all these different domains, but what's behind them is, well, as we were saying, highly advanced.
This is the thing that fascinates me more than anything else about this subject now. Not even the cases. I mean, the cases are fascinating. And, you know, I'll happily do my 3rd volume of USO history. But honestly, what really floats my boat these days, if I can use a water-based analogy, is trying to figure out the intelligences like these other beings. And by observing and studying their behavior and the behavior of the craft, not just alleged beings like people talk about. And I think that I've come to feel that we could probably learn a few things by doing a very systematic, comprehensive study of the behavior of these craft. I started doing that with this USO study by accident. When I finished all the cases, my wife was looking at it and she's like, wouldn't it be nice if you had a little chart like for each one of these? Like, you know, what color was the craft? What was it doing? What shape was it? And I was like, oh, damn it. I just did this. I have to go back over all of them and extract that. But I did that. So I created 15 to 16 categories for each case. And then once I did that, I thought, let's put them in a spreadsheet and see if we can find any patterns. And that is when I started realizing, like, there are behavioral consistencies that is going on here, that some make perfect sense, others were surprising, but were there nonetheless. So I think studying their behavior is an untapped potential in ufology in general.
Behavior and intent.
Yeah.
We're seeing them doing things, but why are they doing it? What are the patterns? I mean, that's the kind of analysis that we've been missing coming out of the federal government with all the releases that they've started giving us at this point. Is, you know, we've got a whole bunch of disconnected videos, disconnected reports that are going along, but it's the bigger picture, the analysis that goes on of, by looking at the volume of the data, to actually start understanding what are they doing, why are they here, et cetera.
Well, yeah, I mean, what the U.S. government's giving us, I mean, look, there were some very interesting videos in that last release. I don't want to diminish that.
Like the one that kept on flipping over like a page almost. It was going back and forth.
Some of it was just fascinating. I thought the Syrian instant acceleration video was very interesting. And there were a number of others that I thought I would probably call these genuine UFOs. But that's totally different from disclosure. And the reason you can't call them genuine is because all the metadata is missing, all the platform, the sensor data. None of that was released along with the video. So you're looking at really interesting images, I grant you, and I mean, very interesting, but they all stop short of being genuine evidence because you can't really analyze them. So this isn't disclosure by any means. This is just a bureaucratic tug of war.
Now, talking with Lou about this on Monday, he said, yeah, we're aware of it. We're working on it, and we're going to get that corrected.
Good. That would be great. I mean, what you're seeing is, I think I want to make this point here, which I know Lou totally agrees with, which is that we're not seeing a unified, monolithic United States government that has some kind of plan. Like, there is no plan. If there's a plan at all, it's to not release anything whatsoever. Like, that's probably the plan. But the problem with that is that there has always been some level of what we might call an insurgency within the system. I mean, you go back to the 1950s and read some of the old books that were written back then by guys like Marine Major Donald Kehoe, who had an in with a lot of this. And he talked about it. He said, a lot of these military guys want to see the secrecy end, and they oppose the way that it's being done. There's always been this. The difference today is that we have internet, and we've had basically several decades of a kind of below the surface rising public interest in it. And also, this has to be said as well, better and better research that's been done. In the 21st century, I really think that the quality of books and research and data that came out on this really improved dramatically. I'm not taking anything away from the earlier pioneers who did this, but just so much came out in the first and then second decade of this century. And I think it just caused a bit of a momentum to develop and a push from below. And there were insiders, including Lou and including Chris Mellon and others, who kind of finagled their way to get a couple of videos declassified and released. That was the Go Fast and the Tic Tac and the gimbal video in 2017. And then we were off to the races. And by the way, when those were released, you remember the U.S. military, the Pentagon, would not acknowledge that those were legit. Nope. And there were all kinds of skeptics out there saying, these are bogus, this is fake, the audio's fake.
They're still out there. They're still out there, Richard.
They're still
debating
those videos are authenticated, I guess. I guess I'm just saying there's a tug of war, there's a battle going on. And I don't want to portray it as like the good guys versus the bad guys. Everyone's got an angle. Everyone's got whatever their reasons are for pushing this. But the fact is, there are people who believe in secrecy, and there are people who believe in some level of openness and disclosure. I don't know if Lou or if Hal Puthoff or Chris Mellon or these other people believe in complete total disclosure. I really don't know how far they would want to go. But I do think that those individuals and others believe in some greater level of openness than what we've had. And so they're pushing for it in their own, each as far as they feel that they can go within their obligations and security protocols and all of that.
Yeah, well, it's the unelected bureaucrats who have been there for, in their career for 20, 30 years, and they have their established methods of how they want to deal with it. And they look at all the different elected officials who come in and run the agencies as these weebies, meaning we've been here, or where we be here now, but we're not going to be here down the road. So they basically committed administrative suicide by, if you want to call it, preventing the information from coming forward. And the executive branch is hitting it now through agencies like the DIA and the CIA.
That's right. We basically live in a technocracy. We don't really honestly try to analyze what is our society, what is our form of government that actually exists. We call it a democracy. Yeah, right. We call it a republic, whatever that's supposed to mean. But what we really have is a very highly integrated, complex, technocratic, data-driven system that it doesn't work like democracy. It doesn't work like that at all. And so, and when you have a system that's basically running a global empire, United States, this is what you get. You're going to get an opaque, unelected bureaucratic system because they're the guys who actually run the show. Not necessarily well,
Right.
but they run the show.
Richard, did you hear the that press conference on Capitol Hill yesterday? Yesterday with Tim Burchett and David Rush.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Interesting.
I did a thing on it. I thought it was. Look, I thought it was a good thing, and there was not much that was new, other than Grush's kind of off the cuff statement about plasma intelligence. If you caught that was pretty wild. But other than that, I didn't really catch much that was actually new. But that wasn't really the important thing. It's like they're trying to put pressure on the system. And, how effective it was when there's essentially no media coverage of it. You really have to wonder how much pressure is really being applied. But I think, that's what they were doing. And it is definitely significant that you got a guy like Grush. This guy, not only did he have a very responsible position within the intelligence world and within the Pentagon, but guy spoke under oath to Congress. I mean, for God's sake, like he actually put himself right out there, and he's got members of Congress supporting him to this day. I think it's very significant, and I don't know that anything's going to come out of what they want. They're talking about the need for whistleblower protection, which I agree is a very significant and important thing that if we're going to have anything like a disclosure on any level, I can't see how you can do it without significant whistleblower protection. I mean,
it can't be done without whistleblower protection, Richard.
Right. It cannot. There's too many people. Their asses are on the line, and they know it. And for them to talk, I've had individuals write to me in this vein for years, many years, who've said almost exactly this, like verbatim. It's like, well, disclosure is a real great idea, but none of us is speaking like he's one of them. None of us would ever agree to saying anything until we were absolutely sure that we were not going to go to jail or have, negative repercussions for telling the truth of what we know. So it's a big problem. I think there's a lot of skeptics will say, well, how can you keep a secret like this? Well, you keep your secret because we don't have the kind of transparent, open, democratic society that we like to pretend we have.
You mean the National Security State of America, created in 1947 when they got the National Security Act? It transformed our republic or democracy, whatever you want to call it, into a security state, essentially.
Exactly. It's exactly my argument as well. So that's not what we have. And so whistleblower protection, I think, was the big thing that they talked about at that event yesterday.
They did, but one of the key things is not just the whistleblowers themselves, it's their families.
Yeah.
They have to provide for them, and they also want to keep them out of harm's way. So those whistleblower protections, if they were enacted, would protect them and their families, which is key.
Yeah, totally agree with that. In fact, we talked about the USS FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. One of the cases from the 50s was written about by a guy who was an officer on that ship. He was anonymous, but he wrote to a couple of different message boards, and he said, I have to be anonymous because I still have my family to worry about. He was very explicit about that. And years ago, I had a conversation with Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell, who, sixth man on the moon. And we talked about, he had said to me once that he knew of, there were two individuals explicitly who spoke to him about alien technology and bodies, he said. And I asked him, like, are you able to throw me a bone here or give me something? He said, I can't, because the people who came to me did so under great duress and did so at great risk, he said, to their professions, their families, and their lives. He included their families in that as well. These people were very concerned.
And they had good reason to be, as we are all well aware of.
Right. Absolutely.
But what I thought was interesting is that Representative Tim Burchett, he was there at the press conference as well. Yep. And he stated that behind closed doors in the SCIF meeting, the U.S. government is admitting to them that these objects are real and we're not alone on this planet. But when the public or the media reaches out to the government, their answer is, we have no evidence to support the existence of any UAP or NHI. What they're saying publicly and what they're saying privately are two completely different things. That came out, and I thought it was very interesting that he made that statement publicly yesterday.
Totally agree. Burchett's one of the best members of Congress on this. I've never listened to him and thought that he's never disappointed me with the things that he says on this subject. He's always struck me as totally down to earth. No BS about this guy. And I think you get the sense of a guy who really has had enough dealing with the federal bureaucracy on this.
You got to wonder why he wasn't the chairman and the lead of that particular group that they put together for the task force. He has the chops. He has the mindset for it, but maybe not the chest. Sorry.
Jeez, dadgummit.
Who knows why they make these decisions? You know, the other people I have, Anna Paulina Luna, I think she does a good job, and nothing against her.
She's been covering up for the CIA lately, though.
Say that again? What?
She's been covering up for the CIA, saying, oh, God, they've been giving us great information. It's flowing through. But then you got Burleson yesterday saying the CIA is doing a full cover-up with the DIA. So it's kind of...
Oh, okay. Yeah. I agree with you there. He's way better on that. He's much better. CIA, you know, they've got... one of the interesting things, I'm just bouncing around here a little bit, but the story came out a few years ago and it has not gone away. It's never been denied, and I believe it is true, which was this failed attempt of a technology transfer, maybe a Tic Tac UFO from Lockheed under CIA control to Bigelow Aerospace. And it was blocked twice by CIA's officer Glenn Gaffney.
And the second time it was blocked, they shut the program down completely, got rid of all the funding, they hide where it was going to, told them to go ahead and sit on it, and maybe in 10, 20 years we'll call you back. But in the meantime,
I really think this is why OSAP really was formed to begin with. I think probably the main reason to start it was Bigelow and his buddies like Harry Reid. They're like, we want that damn Tic Tac. Let's see if we can get it. And I think that's why they probably created OSAP. I mean, it's when you think about all of the things that OSAP supposedly did, that is by far the single most significant thing that they ever tried to do.
I mean, the DIRDs they put out, those documents?
Yeah, those are interesting, but none of it's as interesting as the attempt to get a freaking UFO from Lockheed.
Yeah, and that had it in the West Coast.
Yeah. So I think that's got to be why OSAP was created.
Yeah. Well, maybe what they have, maybe it's from Kingman. We don't know. Apparently, that is the site that had the best crash retrieval.
I think that may be true, but I don't think that I have no idea what Lockheed has. The rumor is that they were holding a Tic Tac craft, and I don't think that's what came down in Kingman in 1953. But, you know, who the hell knows what we're talking about? That craft supposedly was taken. The guy who did a lot of research on this recently died, and I knew him, and I'm embarrassed that I can't remember. But Michael Schratt's done a lot of follow-up on this. Anyway, that craft possibly was taken even before there was an Area 51 in 1953. It was taken generally to that region, supposedly.
And the occupants.
We don't really have a lot of great detail on that particular event, but we've got a little bit.
Well, hopefully it'll be coming out soon.
What's coming out?
Hopefully it'll come out soon.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Not
it's only been 75 years, so yeah, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Richard, let me ask you, when you first got the Wilson Davis memo out of the Edgar Mitchell estate and you sat on it, when you went through it, did you realize at that time that it was Lockheed Martin and the CIA that were preventing Admiral Thomas Wilson from access?
No, I did not know that originally. When I first saw that document, the year was 2000 and the end of 2006. It was a while ago.
Right.
I was shown that document. I've still never given the name of the man who showed it to me, but all I will say is,
I didn't know that.
He was exceedingly well positioned to do so. And I wasn't allowed even really to, I wasn't allowed to photograph it. I wasn't allowed to, I wasn't encouraged to take notes at the time. So I just had to read it. And I only read, I didn't read the entire document. I didn't even have that much opportunity. I read a couple of pages, but I did read the page where Wilson told Davis that the craft was not of this world, not made by human hands. And
Right.
So, I mean, I read enough, but I did not know who the contractor was. No, I didn't have that information. And then it was in 2018 that Edgar Mitchell died, I think in the beginning of 2016, was it? Or 2017? Yeah. And then out of his estate, and I think we all know the story now, someone very close to Mitchell was able to preserve some of his papers that were going to be destroyed.
Yep.
He preserved them. He flew to Australia, and some people JPEG'd them eventually and started making the rounds. They ended up, first, they got to Grant Cameron, our buddy up in Canada, and Grant saw them at the end of 2018. I didn't see them until I think it was early April of 2019. So I sat on them for 2 months. So I was able to read the entire document only by April of 2019. And then in June of 2019 was when they I was part of what publicized them at that time. They were slipping out. I could tell.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I'm going to do a damn video on this and just cut the cord. Yeah. So what a crazy circus.
You did the right thing
when that came out.
Oh, it was. Don't you feel vindicated though that now, after all of this?
Oh yeah, totally.
When Eric Davis came out and publicly admitted that he was the author of that?
It took several years, but there are all these people who just say, those notes are bullshit. It's a Hollywood script. It's disinformation. And I'm like, I am telling you, I know for a fact that shit is absolutely real. I will go to my grave saying this. And I didn't care really. For a while, I was very annoyed actually at some of the UFO community. Like no one would stand up with me and defend those documents, or those papers. But I knew they were legit, and I didn't really care. And then finally, as Davis, he's, thank goodness, he actually spoke even early on, kind of hinting that he wrote them, and then he eventually just stated it. But then a whole bunch of other people. Jacques Vallée, if you read his Forbidden Science from that relevant decade, he talked about it. It's in there. Like they all knew. That whole crowd, the Bigelow crowd, Davis, Puthoff, Kit Green, Colm Kelleher, John Alexander, Bigelow himself, like Edgar Mitchell, they were all part of, they're all part of NIDS, the National Institute for Discovery Science. So they're all part of the same old crowd. And they were all back then, like this is a fascinating story. You had these guys around Robert Bigelow, the billionaire, all deeply into UFOs, every one of them. And all of them wanted basically to get to the Holy Grail. Like they all knew this is real. They all had their own perspective on it and their own things that they knew about it. And you could see like this, they were like a club. They were like the true invisible college. So when they'd heard about the Wilson story through Edgar Mitchell, back in 1997, when Stephen Greer, like this all started with Stephen Greer. He's making the rounds in DC about, disclosure and about the cover up. And he's trying to speak to people and he's got Edgar Mitchell with him. And they met with Admiral Thomas Wilson. This is a fact. And then Mitchell came back and talked about this to basically the Bigelow crowd. And they knew that Wilson got shut down. And they were all waiting. Like when Wilson retired in 2002, that's when they sent Eric Davis out to interview him because they wanted They didn't want this for disclosure. They wanted this for themselves. They wanted to know what the hell happened. What was the story? And they had to sell Davis to Wilson, essentially, and convince Wilson that Davis was a stand-up guy, which he was and is. And Wilson was willing to talk with him. Like, that's literally what happened. It's a fascinating story. And yet when the notes came out, all these dum-dums out there were saying, it's all fake. It's not fake. It's an incredible, important part of our history.
Oh, just like they're saying the Tic Tac was an optical artifact.
Yeah, right. And by the way, the thing with Wilson, let me just say this for anyone's listening is wondering what the hell is he even talking about. Thomas Wilson was very, very high up in the Joint Chiefs of Staff back in the late 90s. And
he was J2. He was
that's
very
right.
high up.
He was head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff and became head of the Defense Intelligence Agency shortly after that. And so here's Greer saying there is a rogue element to the UFO cover-up. It is out of government control. It's being dominated by private contractors, and we need you, the government, to take control of it. That was basically what Greer was saying. And Wilson looked into it, and he found several programs, not just one. According to those notes with Davis, he found 4, speaks to the guys running one of them, and they basically said, get the hell out of here. We're not afraid of you. He's like, well, I'll go up the chain of command. They're like, be our guest. Do what you want to do. You can't scare us, dude. He wanted in the program and they wouldn't let hم in. So that's an amazing story.
It's an incredible story. It is unbelievable. And most people, believe it or not, with everything that's happened from then to now, are not as aware of it as you and I are. And they tend to overlook a lot of what was going on with that back then. And when Thomas Wilson was asked directly, unlike Eric Davis, he denied it.
Of course he would.
He completely denied it.
And he said in his conversation with Davis in 2002, he said, if this comes up, I'm going to deny it all. So, and he did. He did. And look, you can't expect anything else from him.
No.
After I got to read those notes in 2006, I figured out it was Thomas Wilson, and I arranged to call Thomas Wilson myself, which I did.
Really?
I was able to get in touch with him. I was able to, and this is the one time in my life that I really was dishonest in my presentation of what I was. I just said I was doing his research on the U.S. Navy at the time, and he came up, and his career seemed very, very interesting, and I wanted to chat with him. I honestly,
until you touched on this, and it kind of turned, right?
I had absolutely. I didn't even have a good cover story, but he was willing to talk with me. So we got on the phone, and then right away I said, "Look, I'm calling because I researched the subject of UFOs, and your name came up in a very interesting and important conversation." And right away, he knew exactly what I was talking about, obviously.
Sure he did.
And in fact, I was able to reference Stephen Greer had written about this. He had just published a book himself called Hidden Truth, Forbidden Knowledge. And he talked about this. So I was able to just say, well, look, it's not me. Stephen Greer is talking about you. But I have it on a couple of sources, excellent sources, that this meeting did in fact take place. And I just wanted to know what you could say about it. And he, for the longest time, he just said, well, my memory is foggy. He used that phrase quite a few times, and said, I was busy. We were looking for weapons of mass destruction in Saddam's Iraq. I didn't have time for this UFO stuff. He said, yes, but I remember Edgar Mitchell, and because he was an astronaut, I wondered what made an astronaut so interested in this. That's what made me look into it, or that's what made me curious. He never admitted that he looked into it. He said, right. He just came to see me, and and that was the end of it. But that's absolutely not what happened. And then he just he hung up. He ended the call almost immediately.
Of course he did.
Didn't have anything to do with me.
Do you know who convinced Thomas Wilson to talk with Eric Davis? Oak Shannon.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
yep.
Oak Shannon was. he was another. I didn't really know much about him, but he was part of that whole circle of people. He knew John Alexander, I think, pretty well, and he was part of John Alexander. All these guys are all running in the same circles. Back in the mid and late 80s, Alexander had his own thing within the Pentagon to kind of hopefully find the actual UFO office, if there was one. And he created a little group called
the Advanced Technology Working Group.
Similar, Advanced Theoretical Physics, I think it was AT.
Yeah, and you know who was in those meetings with John Alexander?
Well,
Oak Shannon.
Oak Shannon was there.
And you know what he did that nobody else in those meetings
Bob
did?
Wood, Hal Puthoff.
Yes.
But what about
Here's what Oak Shannon did. He took notes. He took notes.
And those notes became released. They became available.
Thomas and I have a copy of his notes for those meetings. Yeah. So but that came out after the fact. Now you want to know how Oak Shannon knew Thomas Wilson? I'll tell you.
Please.
When Thomas Wilson was younger and in the Navy, Oak Shannon rented a house off base where all of the people in that group would get together after they were off duty. They would go there to womanize, drink, smoke, do the things that they could not do on base. And Thomas Wilson was one of the people that was frequenting there with Oak Shannon, and Oak Shannon was the one who rented it and allowed them to come. So they were all connected through nefarious means when they were much younger. That's how they trusted each other.
Debauchery.
Well, you go through something like that together, and those are your boys, right?
Exactly.
Well, I didn't know that. That's interesting. What you definitely get the sense of it, though, is that there's this kind of informal but very real kind of network, right? Of military guys,
old boys club,
or intelligence guys, and they all share. They share what they could share, and they're all trying to get to the center of the labyrinth in their own way.
Can I get on this grapevine?
No. Yeah, absolutely. If we can,
nice.
Tim has been here for a bit. Anonymous Rex, you're in the back. You've got 3 questions about the books that we wanted to get to before you stepped out.
But I got to ask you about the grapevine, just real quick. Grapevine. So, what do you make, Richard? What do you make of the text message from Bob Bigelow to B.A. Chris? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think that I do. I'm not sure that I know what you're referring to.
Okay, so he said, B.A. Chris says that Bigelow and he were conversing, they're friends. He sent him a message. He said, I'm going to push the president for soft disclosure in early 2026.
Well, all right, well, good. People can push all they want. That doesn't mean that they're going to make it happen.
I just wonder if you think there's a kid. You were speaking about the old boys club. I'm just wondering, you think there's an old boys club there between Bigelow and Donald Trump?
I don't know. No. Does Bigelow know Trump at all? I mean, I think they might know each other.
He's a huge donor. You know, he has his space tent on the space station. So
So I would think that he does. I don't really have a lot to say about it. I would be speaking out of ignorance, but I mean, just thinking about Trump and disclosure, I have
what a better way to push up his ego to say, I'm the guy who brought out the information that changed the world. That's the kind of stuff he would do, right?
And David Grush mentioned that at the press conference, if you remember. He said this president will be immortalized in the history books if he would have come forward with it. And when I heard that, I said, oh, he must be listening to the show. Because me and Thomas say this all the time.
For years.
That the president has to do that. Somebody else can.
Trump is like, I mean, you know, people love or hate this guy. To me, he's absolutely fascinating. Yeah. He is the one, if you had to pick a single politician in our lifetime who would be just crazy enough to do disclosure, you'd have to go with Trump. Exactly. Like, he's got all the stuff lines up for him. He whether you believe or not that he was an outsider, that is how he portrayed himself, and that is how he was treated by both the Republican and Democratic Party when he ran. Certainly in 2016, they treated him.
He never had public office.
He never had public office, and his own party did everything to torpedo him, and then the major media did everything to torpedo him. This is a fact. So in that sense, they all saw him as a threat. They all saw him as an outsider, and but he also came across as this guy with brass balls who basically would, you couldn't intimidate him. And yet what's happened? Like, in my opinion, he's going to drain the swamp, but I think he fell into the swamp. I think he's been absorbed. I think the system has absorbed him. And I could be wrong. I would love to be wrong, but I think he's been absorbed by the system, like the Borg. They just took him. And whether he's actually going to do disclosure, you can't rule it out. He's a true wild card. He's a true wild card. But
if I had Robert Bigelow as a friend, and you could really find many other people that would raise your intrigue on a topic than Bob Bigelow, especially since there's a lot of information that has never come out from Skinwalker Ranch back in those NIDS days.
Totally agree. Bigelow is exceptionally knowledgeable and extremely intelligent. And he did that amazing interview on, was it 60 Minutes? Yeah. Almost a decade ago. Is it almost to an incredulous interviewer who's like, yeah, they're walking among us. They're here. So it's kind of an amazing thing to say. Yeah. I'm sure he knows a lot. And clearly, Trump, I have to think. First of all, Don Jr. is into this subject. We know that for a fact. We know that who was he died. He was very close with Trump, and during the first term, he was a news guy. Anyway, I know he was interested in it as well. I can't remember his name. Trump had people around him, and then of course his uncle, who probably got a Nikola Tesla's papers when Tesla died. We're told John Trump. I think Donald Trump probably knows a few things about this subject, and why wouldn't he be interested? Of course he'd be interested, but whether he could actually, when we think about disclosure, it's just not something you can just willy-nilly do.
No,
there are major interests that are absolutely dedicated to not letting any of this out. First of all, if you're the U.S. empire, you're the U.S. military, obviously some of this technology has got to be weaponizable. So you're gonna let China know that you've got this? You're gonna let Russia know that you've got this? They're not going to do that now more than ever, since you can really see the empire's cracking at the seams in every way imaginable, and we're definitely moving into a multipolar world. We're actually in it now. We're seeing the limits of U.S. power in Iran easily. So I don't think they're going to want to give this up. And then on top of that, you got to wonder, there's legal ramifications. What liabilities exist there? I don't see any incentive for these people to just, walk away from the table and say, here's what we've got. I don't think they're going to do that voluntarily.
But his incentive is he can screw with the world. He can screw with religion. He will go down in the books for bringing it out. And it's number one. Got 1 billion hits in a week. It's number one. It's the number one trending topic.
Don't you see these whistleblowers as kind of cracks in the dam? If you're able to get a couple whistleblowers that people believe, and people get behind those whistleblowers, kind of fueled by maybe, I don't know, a movie about disclosure, that you might have some traction. I don't know. Maybe I think give human beings too much.
No, I agree with you, Daryl. I think, we're looking at cracks in the dam. Compare this situation to even 10 years ago, 20 years ago. We're in a completely different situation now. It would have been impossible to think of multiple members of Congress going out on a limb on this issue. That just would not have happened. And there's been a lot of other people. We've had Gresham, we've had many other, a number of other impressive people who've come forward. So I agree. I think we're not necessarily done with that. But the real question is how slow can this be slow walked? We've been doing this for 10 years now. When the New York Times covered this in 2017 with the ATIP and the ATIP
almost
program.
10 years anniversary.
People were like, this is disclosure, man. And it wasn't. We still don't have an admission from the government on any of this. No admission. The United States government has not conceded that there are genuine anomalous UAPs.
Actually, there was someone from the Space Force about 3 or 4 years ago who made a statement and admitted they're here, that it's a global issue, that we're working with partners around the world. And this is before Susan Goff probably got.
Yeah, but these are unofficial statements by private people.
No. This was when he was still a colonel in the Air Force.
Space
Yeah,
Force.
The Space Force, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of off the record and high level people
It was
making
a press
statements.
conference.
Oh, no,
it was a press conference.
It was on the record.
Okay. All right.
It was
Well,
at a press conference.
and what's happened since? Nothing.
No,
Yeah,
denial. So far up to denial, we're in Ethiopia.
So,
That
but
guy's
we
probably
are in a
taking a walk.
situation, the leaks are happening, like the statements are happening. So the question is, how long can this go? And I mean, it's been going for almost 10 years already, which is much longer than I would have predicted. Hell, I wrote a book on this in 2010. It was a different universe ago. And my co-author and I, we thought, shit, if there's a big event, this will happen like an avalanche. Like that was the biggest thing we got wrong. We thought it'll happen really fast. You know, Friday, it's nothing. Monday, the world's changed. Well, no, it's not gone down like that, because what we're seeing is tremendous resistance from that establishment that does not want to give this up. So it's basically the fight of the irresistible force versus the immovable object. At some point, this truth will come out. I do believe that. But
Here's the problem that I can see right off the bat, Richard. David Grush, during that press conference the other day, and also recently Lou Elizondo himself, have said publicly that they're aware that the United States government is in communication with NHI. Now, if you're President Trump and you find out that that's part of the disclosure movement and you would come out with that information, do you have any idea the avalanche, not just from this country, but from everyone on the planet, would push back against the United States for having some sort of communication and or agreement with an advanced civilization and kept everybody in the dark on it? I don't think that's something that you would be willing to want to entertain, that kind of pushback.
Yeah, but we've been telling him behind the scenes.
Pissing to the world.
How do you tell people that, the general public? How do you say that? We made an agreement on your behalf and you know nothing about it? It would be a revolt.
Yeah, but maybe there wasn't a choice.
Don't disagree with that
You
at
either
all.
don't do an agreement, you get something really bad, or if you make an agreement, you get something out of it, and it's not quite as bad as it could have been. You know, it's like
you think
signing
these
in a
things
contract
happen
with a
by-
gun to your head.
Let's just play a game and imagine how this could have happened. So let's go back to the 1940s, and like you're President Harry Truman, and you learn that, wow, this thing came down around Roswell, and we got a craft, and we got some bodies, and hey, that one's alive, and we're we've got this he here as a guest of the United States government, and we're having sporadic communication, and they want us to get rid of our nukes, and we're saying the hell with that. Who knows how much conversation went back and forth. The Holloman story from 1964, or was there a Holloman story from 1954, or whatever? Like Dan Sherman, who wrote Above Black and has talked about this kind of communication that he participated in with these other intelligences. I think I believe that's probably real. And it's very easy to see how the U.S. government could kind of like bit, by degree get sucked into this relationship. That's not hard for me to think about. I think that's actually very natural for them to do that, especially back in the 50s and 60s. U.S. was sitting on top of the world. The arrogance, the power, the entitlement, honestly, that American policymakers had back then was through the roof. And their attitude would be, well, of course we have to. Of course, we're the leaders of the free world. Of course, we must deal with these extraterrestrials. Who else? Only us. And they would do that. And they would make no bones about it. They'd be like, look, and we can't let the world know because, first of all, why do we want to have a new form of energy? We're making shitloads of money with petroleum, and it'll last forever. And by the 1950s standards of consumption, it would last a lot more than it's lasting now. And so they're like, yeah, we're on top of the world. We don't need to give all of this up to the rest of the world. We'll take what technology we can. We'll make money off of it that we can, and the world will be happy. They don't want to know any better anyway.
We got a nice thing
Back in
coming anyway.
1950, we also told Tim that he could ask 3 questions until I butted in.
Timmy.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks very much for coming on the show and taking some questions. Long-time listener,
Thank you.
first-time caller.
Nice to meet you.
Great. And so I really love how this book is set up with each chapter giving a little bit of history, synopsis of that time, and then you jump right into specific cases. And my question jumps into around chapter 2, where you're talking about the years 1970 to 71. And you specifically go into some cases around that time, but you express that there's 25 USO cases that were recorded for study, including 8 specific military cases. And one of them in particular, the USS Trepang, which is now a little bit more famous as in more recent years, in 2015 or so.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, could you go into depth a little bit more about who ran this study, if there were any evidentiary results, and then second
Which
part.
study are you referring to? I'm not sure what study you are talking about. I'm sorry. You mentioned the Trepang.
Yeah, and you were saying that there was a study that was conducted during this time with using these witnesses and cases as a study, and what came out of that was an evidence rating system. And I was thinking perhaps if you could speak a little bit more as to how they came up with that system.
I came up with that system. That's my system.
Oh, nice.
And it was just I was just, flying by the seat of my pants here. So I'm looking at all of these different cases and I'm thinking, how do I judge what is a good case in terms of evidence and what is not? And so I created 5 different criteria, and I had weighted for each one of those. That's essentially what it was. And so after a while, it just became, a system. So one criteria was, I call proximity, and I have 2 measurements for that, like proximity in terms of the duration, like how long was this reported from when it happened? So if it was immediately after that, it would get a point. And was it also from one of the original witnesses, or was this told secondhand, and this type of thing? I had I can't remember what I put together here, my evidence system. Here we go. Source quality, right. Who is reporting the event? So is it the direct witness or is it secondhand? Things like that. The level of detail. So how precise is the information? Like some people will say, well, this happened in June of 1973. We don't have an exact date. So that's not bad, but it's also not exact. So it can't get full points. Evidence of the investigation. So was the case examined by outside people? Was there a journalist who did investigation? Was there some MUFON investigator? Were there any outside people who did any level of investigation? Were there other forms of corroboration, additional witnesses or supporting material, government documentation, and so forth? So I created these various categories. For me, they're just common sense, but I try to be very consistent with my application of it. So I think that's what you are referring to. So this was no one else's study. I just created it myself.
I see. I guess I did want to zip forward a little bit to 73, where you kind of were earlier talking about filmmaker Emenaker and Sandler, who were contacted by 2 USAF colonels to potentially release some film in a project that was going to be released nationally.
That's right.
And I'm curious now, on the other side of this coin, do you think there's any potential, knowing that one of these colonels was part of Blue Book, do you think there's any potential that this was part of a planned disinformation created to potentially discredit the topic?
Well, that's a lot of questions have gone into that situation. That was occurring during Richard Nixon's real crisis of his presidency. So in 1973. So As many people remember, Nixon resigned from the presidency in August of 1974, but all throughout 1973, there was a huge crisis. And from at least, I think what Bob Emenegger might have said about this, if I'm remembering correctly, the reason that they were given was that this presidential crisis might be an opportunity to reveal some important thing about this subject. Could it be disinformation? None of that's impossible. We're really not ever going to know. I suspect that it was a genuine attempt that, and then the rug got pulled out at the last minute.
And was there ever any word by either of them that they felt like they had been set up?
I never knew Sandler, and I only spoke briefly with Bob Emenegger many years ago, who by the time I talked with him, he was vocal about the whole phenomenon, the whole community. That was my take. I never got the sense in my study of that event, we're talking 1973, that they thought that they were being played. I think that they felt they were promised something, and then that promise never came through. That's what I think happened. That's the best I can say.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll wrap up with my final question that hovers around 1978 to 79, around chapter 5, where you're discussing information that we were getting from Russia in a joint military and civilian program called SETKA, S-E-T-K-A.
Correct.
Could you talk a little bit more about some of the information that we got potentially out of that program? Was there anything of value that you feel we could talk about?
Absolutely. The SETKA programs, I'm very, very interested in the history of Soviet and Russian ufology in general. And so with SETKA, what you had was, I gotta thumbnail this. So Soviet official UFO policy through most of the 1970s was very dismissive, officially speaking. But there was an event that happened in 1977 called at a place called Petrozavodsk. And this was a major UFO sighting that happened, I think in September of 1977, and it got international attention. And I think as a result of that, I think that really was a turning point. So the Soviet system created SETKA, and there was a SETKA on AN and SETKA MO for military. So the one was all academic and run by the Soviet Academy of Sciences, and the other one was basically run by the military and was basically more operational, I guess you could say. And like there was concern with like possible effects of the phenomena on military equipment and personnel. They actually studied that, and we know that. I was just researching this even more recently than writing the book. There was a statistical report that they created, I think in around maybe 1979, published by the Soviet Academy of Sciences, and it analyzed over 200 Soviet observations of, they didn't call them UFOs, they called them anomalous atmospheric phenomena, I think. The thing about that, it was very sober, it was very technical. It didn't proclaim an extraterrestrial answer, but it did not treat the reports as being dismissed either. Like they were genuinely anomalistic events that they studied. And we know there's enough that's come out about the SETKA programs in Russian publications. You can probably search a lot of this. A lot of this is searchable online if you're willing to just hunt. So we do know a few things about it. And that program ran right up until 1991, not under the same name. It had a different name after that, but it was a serious event. It was a serious, not event, it was a serious study. Both aspects, the military and the academic. I hope that's awesome. Hope that answers a little bit.
Yeah, it really does. And I guess I'll just throw this last one out there. I didn't know anything about this when I read your book, And so I learned about Neuro, N-U-R-O,
Yes,
which you call the hidden sibling of NRO.
correct.
And so briefly, is there anything else you can tell us about the National Underwater Reconnaissance Office?
Well, I've got to give a shout out to UAP Gerb, who has a fantastic YouTube channel of his own, and he did a very deep dive, so to speak, on Neuro, which I would recommend to anyone. Just go to his channel, you can find it. But as far as what Neuro was, it was founded in 1969, and it was basically the underwater version of the NRO, essentially. It was a very, very ultra secret Navy listening operation that was absolutely secret for quite a long time, and they engaged in monitoring, both sonar monitoring, but also active espionage in a variety of instances as well. So, and their successor program, I'm sure. I mean, I have no doubt it's all still going to this day.
Thank you so
deep
much.
secrets under the ocean. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Wonderful conversation, Richard. I didn't realize you were short on time. The emails were going to a different account I didn't look at, so you were way over, but I appreciate you hanging out and talking about a lot of legacy stuff, and talking about USOs and getting into the whole disclosure movement where we're at today. An amazing conversation, to say the least.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad to have hung out with everyone here. And I'll be happy to do it again sometime.
We have to, absolutely. Agenda or no agenda, you're an absolute asset to this community. Thank you for coming out. I want to let you go and just say thank you once again, my friend. You have a great evening.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here. Daryl and Mike, you're awesome too. I really enjoyed both of you.
Oh, I enjoyed our conversation.
Where are you from, Mike?
The first time as well. New York City.
Brooklyn.
Yep. That's where I was born. I was born in Brooklyn.
There you go. Small world, Richard.
You really, I can just, like, there's one of my people.
There we go.
and I was raised in Rochester.
Oh, wow. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still there.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So we'll do it again soon, Richard.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Richard.
Have a good one.
Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, an hour into the show, I get a message from Mike Morris saying that, hey, Richard's on a 1 hour hard stop. And I'm like,
well, we blew right past that.
But you were in the conversation, but then Mike was like, oh, just go with it. It looks like he's having a fun time. And he was.
He was having a fun time, like the last time he was on.
You pulled out the conversation out of him really well, and he forgot about everything, Mike.
I know.
Yeah.
Like we did the first time with him. And
Yeah.
we'll do
Thank
it
you so
again.
much.
He wants to come back.
And thank you guys for letting me ask those questions.
Yes.
I really enjoyed this series on USOs. As you know, it kind of hits home for me. So
Yeah, of course.
good stuff.
Oh, thank you, Tim. Those are good questions.
Yeah, those are thoughtful. I'm curious, Tim, since I didn't get a chance to ask him this question, but is there some place that stands out as like the hot spot in the
Lincoln
the
City.
ocean? Where?
Yeah, I mean the Northwest Coast is where I've been doing a ton of research, and there's a lot going on.
Oh, yeah, in that one spot, yeah.
Yeah. And my family's sighting
That one
was
spot. Come on.
What's
What are we
about Lincoln
talking
City?
about
No,
here?
everyone knows where Lincoln City is. It's in Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So we're all going there?
Come on up and see
Come
the
on up, you're the
phenomenon
next
for
contestant
yourself.
on The Price is Right.
That's right. That's right.
There were 3 national securities I didn't see you drinking to, by the way.
No, there was a bunch of national securities. I even had to go for a refill there for a little bit. Who is coming in? Edwin's here. I put the new link up in the chat for people if they wanted to join in.
They're coming in now.
They found us.
Michael Sekuloff. Yeah, they found us. Scooby-Doo.
I'm just going to leave this.
Where are you?
Listen, it was a good conversation. It was a lot of fun with Richard. And
Yeah,
you know,
he's
he's still doing the podcast, Need to Know, with Bryce Zabel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it when he lets his hair down. I mean, when he was in the back chat the last time, you know, did I just hear him say fuck?
Yes.
Did he?
We get him to be himself.
Well, the whole conversation he got into about Trump and disclosure, talk about a little thing we can go ahead and clip. I don't think he's talked about it that much.
No, not at all.
He doesn't mind that clip.
Oh, yeah.
No, we got some good stuff.
Got to take him full screen for a bit and then take him to the large screen and then, let it be the focus. And apparently I made myself giant size now. So it works. Everyone wants to get in here.
They do. Because it was a good show. It was a great conversation.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. What, 336? What?
Yeah, 352 right now.
Yeah.
It's been a good evening.
It's been a really good evening. Yeah.
Slow to get up, but then once the numbers got there, we got near 400 for a bit, and then it just kind of drifted down, went back up. But the conversation with Oak Shannon and stuff lifted us up and brought us up a lot more people who were watching it.
I noticed that. Yeah. I was watching the numbers too.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It was like, us all hanging out and just talking like we usually do.
Yeah. But with Richard Dolan, which is a great part. Thanks to Mike Morris and Alan Levine for helping set this thing up and get it going on. This is like the start of his book tour, so we got him at the beginning part of it. Got him to talk about the book a bunch, but also, we have to talk about with our friends like this about what's going on with just general disclosure. God, everyone's us now. What the hell's going on with that?
Well,
no, we're good.
I guess you're just left.
Analytics numbers pop around sometimes when you're looking at numbers on the edge. Sometimes you don't get the accurate stuff that's going on.
Right.
So Tim,
you're right.
You enjoy the conversation. You got to ask your questions.
Yeah, no, I really love Dolan books. All of his books are so informative. I love his style. It's right in his voice. And he does such good research. He makes it sound like it's no big deal, like it's all just available out there, but no. Some of the stuff that he details is eye-opening. I know when I first had my family's experience, Richard Dolan was the first person that I went to for any kind of information on the UFO topic. So
better than Stephen Greer, I'll tell you.
Well, yeah.
You guys talk about
kept
it.
my mouth shut.
I'm verklempt. You guys talk about it. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no, I feel that he's always delivered facts and history. When you ask his opinion, he's very clear. He's delivering his opinion. I think it's great. I've always loved the fact that he's also from my neck of the woods, being a New Yorker. He's a straight shooter. And he's also, I believe, in this for the right reason. Like, I think he does produce books, but I don't think that's his big motivation. Like, he's truly passionate about this topic.
You could hear the difference between him and anybody else who releases a book, because every 5 minutes, the person that releases the book says,
he's plugging the book.
And he was totally just vibing with our conversation. He wasn't trying to sell a book. He was here to talk about what we wanted to talk about. I mean, that's a mark of genuine human there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's a scholar and a gentleman.
Yeah, and the fact that he did his own research into this, created his own evidence rating system to determine which cases he would include in his book, I find that incredibly thoughtful. So this is the second in the series. The first book is great. This second one is just like the first, the way it gives you a brief history of the decade or so that he's going to discuss in that chapter, and then he goes right into cases with details. So as far as like a UFO history book, which potentially could be dry, it's a page turner. I found it really interesting. And even some of the cases I thought I knew about, he had discovered details in new interviews and witness quotes that I had never heard before. So yeah, it's a standout series. I can't wait for book 3.
Gotta wait a year at least.
It's coming about another year.
Another year at least.
It's going to take another year to get book 3 out.
That part about the database thing that he created,
at the minimum,
Tim, it reminded me of Jacques Vallée, because that's essentially what he did. He created a database of all the different everything.
Yeah, and I think attaching a rating system is important because that way you can start to align cases with things that they have in common and things they don't have in common. And it helps you to see patterns. It helps you determine what is probably more valid as far as evidence goes and what is not as valid. So I think putting an evidence rating system together before we even generate this series was really a very thoughtful process. Yeah.
It's very cool.
Because he's been researching for over 30 years, so he's a professional doing this. And it shows. You can tell just by talking to him very quickly that he knows what he's doing. And he's not out just to sell a book, like Daryl said. I agree. I also think he's got the right impression about where we're at with disclosure right now with the president.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with the points he made completely.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So-
we're on different pages of the same book, Mike. Based on my conversations that I had with Lou on Monday, I've got a little bit of an updated view on this, and I'm feeling really good about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on now. Come on. Give us a little drip of something.
Well,
Drip
yeah.
of hope, Thomas.
Well, executive orders don't just happen overnight.
Right.
And they're generally written by a panel of people. It's being put together, and it looks like it's going to get signed. Whistleblower protections, at least, so we can get the people like Dr. Eric Davis, the guy who loves salad. They're able to go ahead and open up the door and let people like this talk. That's what we need.
And let's not forget Jay Stratton, because he had hands on a craft and bodies. So
You
they
got
removed the
Lukatsky too
NDAs.
talking about the same thing, going in the fucking Jake Barber egg-shaped craft. But then again, Alan Levine had an incident with that, and he saw one of those things up close. So eggs do happen. Well before Barber.
That's exciting.
What was the other one? Linda Cobble or something like that. Corbel. She had an egg-shaped craft that came down around the same time that Alan dealt with. So there were several instances where there were these frickin' nanu mork from mork
Dude,
eggs coming down.
If they would have come down at the same time with the guy with the pancakes, they could have had a hell of a breakfast.
But where's the guy with the bacon? Wait a minute. No. We're the bacon. Sorry. Damn. Why do you think they're fattening us all up at Ozempic's killing that? God
You know
damn
what
it.
I'm talking about, right? I think the guy, the farmer, whatever, that finds the craft and the aliens, and they're making pancakes.
Pancakes, yeah. The guy from Denmark talked about that.
Yeah. Maybe the egg was on the
Where
other
are
side
you,
of
Metal?
that ship.
Oh, he's out there somewhere. But yeah, there's actually a picture of the little pancake, and it had a lot of holes in it and stuff. Like it was really whipped up, but there was a lot of baking powder in it.
Let go my ego.
I've followed Dolan for years, and I've probably listened to over 50 interviews with him. And there's one thing that is guaranteed with Dolan, that everything he presents in his book is it's factual based. Like he double checks, triple checks everything that he writes. And so that's why I like reading his books, because you know that everything that he puts in there is well researched.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to the point where any little detail that he thinks may not be on the level or whatever. I mean, he basically, it's guaranteed when you read his book that it's all factual based and well researched. So, and I know for a fact, just by following Dolan for years, that he despises some people like Stephen Greer and others, but when he's interviewing
And
he
DC
always
Muscle
bites his
Wolf,
tongue.
I bit my tongue so hard on that one, Ed would not bring up DC Muscle Wolf, but I let it
He does
fly.
not support
God.
Stephen Greer. He does not support Stephen Greer.
Well, no,
At
during the
all.
interview today.
I've heard him talk many times, and I've heard him. He doesn't like all the BS in the field. He just bites his tongue during interviews to stay out of the weeds. So,
Mike,
Yeah.
hate to interrupt.
I bit my tongue really hard.
I hate to interrupt,
Yeah.
but we got Neil deGrasse Tyson at the screening of Disclosure Day.
Oh, good for him.
No, he looks like he's had a couple drinks so far, doesn't he?
Oh, here we go.
Let's see
We
what he
have
has to
video
say.
of that,
Let's
don't
see
we?
what he has to say.
He's wearing his pajamas
so
on with his
obviously
cowboy hat
the
now.
government has been releasing over the past, 2 years, a lot of these UFO sightings and undisclosed reports. First of all, what do you make of those? I mean, do you think that these are extraterrestrial, or is this something of the Earth?
So I don't believe in things that I have to believe in for them to be true. So until somebody forks up an alien, we will all be asking each other, do you believe in aliens? When the alien just walks out, crosses his legs, and sits down, no longer will that question ever be asked. So I'm just waiting for that.
Well, have you seen that new, little report of where they've talked about 4 types of species of
So
these
I'm a
aliens?
scientist,
Yeah.
and testimony doesn't count as evidence.
Right.
Evidence counts as evidence.
Right.
So as long as you're just describing things, okay. I don't have a problem with that, especially if you have high rank and high.
All right, we had the idea.
Yeah, this is like textbook public intoxication time.
Oh, I know.
But
Well,
what was he wearing? What was he?
Jesus.
Who the
Well,
fuck,
hold
who the
on.
fuck
I need
is
to find
dressing?
this one
Who
here.
was dressing Neil deGrasse Tyson? Is his mom still alive? She thinks it's his first day in kindergarten.
I don't know. He likes to wear pajamas. That's okay. There's a lot of people.
Jesus.
We've got an interesting Catholic priest out there again from the Archdiocese of from the Archdiocese of Washington. No, not that.
We just
No,
had
he's from Nashville. I'm sorry.
this big news of Monsignor Rossetti getting fired from the Diocese of Washington, D.C. because he said there is a possibility that an alien could be a demon impersonating the alien or in disguise of an alien. So that to me is very bizarre, because who's to say that couldn't happen? You know, does that contradict our faith? Absolutely not. You know, demons have appeared in many ways, shapes, and forms for millennia. So I find it an odd reason to can somebody, given that he's a very outstanding theologian. He's a wonderful person. He's an amazing
That's not the one
priest.
I was looking for. Sorry about that. Here we go.
You know, the movie itself, I'm not saying this is what was done, but this could be done. The movie could be consecrated to Satan, and demons can be attached to the movie. This used to happen with heavy metal bands. Big rock bands would consecrate their albums to Satan, and even have black masses to attach.
This is the kind of guy who destroyed Dungeons and Dragons on us, Daryl.
Yeah, no shit.
Demons to the people who would listen to the music. That I learned from Father John Carapi, who used to be, multimillionaire in L.A. and was invited to some of these things. So he saw it firsthand witness. But they could do that with a movie. That demons would attach, demons of unbelief, demons of fear, demons of
from the movie.
Terror would attach to people and shake their faith. You know, so that might be one reason to not go to the movie. I'm not saying that's what they did. I'm just saying that could be done.
Don't go to the movie, because it could shake your faith in Jesus Christ.
They could put a curse over the film that all who watch it would be have demons provoke them. It could happen. We don't know if it did, but it could. Okay, so. When a new discovery appears to challenge the assumptions of a culture, it's possible that the worldview begins to crumble, but the Catholic should never be in danger of that, because Jesus said, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away.
That's fine. Before we get to anything, this is the clip
Paragraph
that I found earlier today. That is I shared this with Interstellar, the guy who made the other clips, because I went with my usual things, just going scan and drop and get to the point. Let's get to the point on this one. Smaller. This is at 2:30. Here we go. So the volume is up. That's the volume. God damn it. Volume's all the way up. Here we go.
355. It says, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. Man occupies a unique place in creation. He is in the image of God in his own nature. He unites the spiritual and material worlds. He is created male and female. God established him in his friendship. Paragraph 356. Of all visible creatures, only man is able to know and love his creator. Okay? Right there. Of all visible creatures, so of all creatures that have corporal form, a body, only man is able to know and love his creator. That statement.
He just took the words from Grush. Corporal, bipedal, non-human intelligence. Corporal, yeah. He's taking the words of what Grush just said, and he's taking scripture and verse, and he's turning it into this. That's why this is the biggie that people haven't found yet.
Only man is able to know and love his creator. That statement alone kind of says that there is no possibility for intelligent life other than man, the angels, and God.
Take a pause.
My dog's intelligent.
Right. I don't know how you could read that any other way. So the church kind of has spoken on this. And it would seem to me very odd that there would be another life form that is intelligent out there that is not even mentioned in the scriptures whatsoever, right? However, there were many times the fallen angels mentioned.
Oh, here we go. The devil himself. Not that the book of Enoch means anything, Daryl. Oh, that's right. It was cut out of the Bible before it became convenient.
Yeah. Dude, this is
This is the kind of stuff that they believe, and they're tying to scripture, and it's going to start multiplying with the masses because a lot of people go to the masses. They're going to hear their homily, their message, whatever's going to go, and it's going to take people and spin them up in one belief complex versus the reality of what's going on.
He takes his job way too seriously. By the way, tomorrow this guy will be excommunicated from whatever fucking church he's at too.
So yeah, that was a big one today. God, what was another big one? We have to wait for tomorrow on this one, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, even the View is covering this now, Daryl and Mike. Actually, you know what? I forgot. I started on the priest thing. Her hand is up very nicely, very calmly. Alice, what say you?
Hello, everybody. It was really cool to have Richard on tonight. That was really nice. And this priest is talking about Monsignor Rossetti. Monsignor Rossetti was not let go only because he said that
was he a dirty priest?
He was working outside the parameters of the Catholic Church, using laity to learn how to be demonologists. So there was a lot more to Monsignor Rossetti being let go from the church.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, that's all.
Well, that's it.
And, there's a lot of the Bible that, the Bible does say there can only be one intercessor between man and God, and that is Jesus Christ. but the Catholic Church uses saints to pray to God and Mary to pray to God.
But back in the 70s when they had Vatican II, that's when all the different churches and parishes out there had to go ahead and remove all the statues of the saints that the churches, at least where I was at in Illinois in the Catholic Church, you had St. Matthew's, you had St. Joseph's, you had St. What was the other one? St. Matthew's, say that one. St. Walter's. All these different churches were all dedicated to different saints. And after that happened, they got rid of the little pew that they had in front for going ahead and getting your communion. And they also took all the statues of all the saints and they put them in the basements everywhere. They because they didn't want people praying to the saints. Like, don't never pray to St. Francis. And if you want to sell your house, don't dig a hole and bury it upside down to help your house sell.
Yeah. Was that the Roman Catholic Church?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
all I'm saying is that
my great aunt Ludwika, actually that was Ludwika Sikta. It was my grandmother's sister. She was a Poland from the Order of the Holy Heart. You know, it was like all the layers of nunnery, of all the, if you want to call it, all the layers that they would wear. And she had a big, huge heart that was like, had flames and stuff around it. She had the full habit with the white thing like you'd see in Europe back in the 40s or 50s. That's how they still happened. Now, she almost came to the United States, but then she saw how the church was run here and how the nuns dressed and how they dealt with stuff. And she's like, no, I don't want to be a part of that. I'll stay where I'll stay in Poland.
Yeah. Well, the Catholic Church, I'm pretty sure that they do know about ET if there is one because they know
a lot of stuff. They have
the
miles
vaults,
and miles
of the Vatican.
They have miles of archives of bookshelves,
Correct.
all underneath Rome, with all the information that they hold and they hide from everybody's eyes in the name of God. Open that stuff up, digitize that stuff, add it to our global knowledge, right?
It's being withheld for a reason. That's what I think.
Like disclosure. But at least we have a precedent.
Well, disclosure. I think everything the Vatican knows is being withheld for control.
Yeah, I think Lou said he's going to the Vatican in August or so. I know it was like months down the road for like August, September-ish maybe. They're going to be going to the Vatican.
That's pretty cool. Does he have a meeting with the Pope?
I don't think he'd be going there otherwise.
Okay. Don't know about that.
We'll find out in time.
Yeah, interesting. Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Can I just say something? What Alice would? So what you just talked about, the Catholics praying through saints and so forth, is a basic tenet of anybody that tries to say that Catholics aren't Christians. So, but I would just suggest that rather than just accept that on its face, I would maybe dig into why Catholics do that. It may be, I don't know if you've ever done that or not.
Back in the time, they would probably pray to it because they figured it was a shortcut to get to God. Not everybody, if everybody prays to God, is God going to be able to get to you? Because everyone's praying to God. But if you prayed to your saint was closer to God than I would be. So going through this particular proxy and praying to him for everything else, that could grant your prayers.
I actually did bring this up with a priest, and he told me that there is things that have been done for centuries. I can't think of the word right now, but it's accepted practice because it's been done for a long, long time in the Catholic Church. That was his reasoning.
Yeah.
I did ask the same question.
You'll find much less zealot Catholics than you'll find zealot non-denominational Christians. What I mean is what you just said. It's tradition, so it happens.
Tradition, thank you. That's the word.
It doesn't mean they're idolaters. Yeah.
Oh, I don't believe that either. I'm just saying, the difference between the Christian and the Catholic is they go by, there's only one intercessor. They're more strict to the words of the Bible, where the Catholic Church has tradition. I don't find either one terribly wrong. I mean, if you're trying to be good and find God, I think that's enough that stands on its own.
Getting back to UFOs, what do you, maybe Lou's going to see that picture of Lily with the lilies of Christ in the Vatican. Did you get to that part, Alice?
I did get to that part. You know, that his story, unfortunately, Luigi's story was kind of full of holes when he was talking about the Crystal Cave being in New Jersey. There is no Crystal Cave in New Jersey. There's one in Kutztown, Pennsylvania.
Luigi, like Mario's brother?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was talking about he had a sign of there was a place called Virgin Mary. There's no place called Virgin Mary. There's a place called Virginville, but in that same area, there's also intercourse and blue balls and all kinds of strange names. So,
thank you, Alice,
and
for that. I appreciate that.
Hey, there's Weed, California.
Bird in Hand is another one. So
Bird in Hand.
These are all Amish. So he had his places mixed up. So that I don't know how long he was remembering, but the places he talked about were not where he thought they were.
He did back up on a lot of things in his story. Go, oh no, it was this way. Oh no, it was that way. It was this way.
Yeah, it could just be memory, you know. He thought he was going to Bethlehem, New Jersey. Bethlehem. I lived about 12 miles from Bethlehem in Pennsylvania for 14 years. There is no Bethlehem, New Jersey. On January.
I've been to intercourse and blue balls. That's funny.
Bird in Hand. Yep, there's. I have pictures with some of them. I know
what Thomas is looking for right now.
What?
Anything to do with turtles?
No, nothing to do with turtles. What are you talking about, turtles? Why would I be interested in turtles?
I don't know. Maybe people have certain rashes they need to take care of, or
could be worse, Daryl. It could be 7 dogs.
Not that. Yeah, we're talking about all the things that are out there in the whole bit. What are we watching? What are we paying attention to? Daryl or Mike, did you see the episode that's out there where there actually was a carjacking of an Amish? Well, not quite. They stole the buggy and the horses. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't see that. Did that happen? I didn't
see that one either.
Did that happen here?
They fought the freaking crack whore at Walmart went and hijacked the freaking horse and buggy from the Amish couple.
Oh my God!
The Amish? Oh my God!
They were shopping at Walmart. And someone took their horse and they didn't think any horse could go ahead and take it because it was a female and she didn't listen. Well, the horse didn't listen to her.
Thomas, that happened literally within 15 miles of here.
Really?
Yeah.
It is fun driving alongside the horse and buggy in your car.
Where is she at? Let's get to this one and see if I can find her. Yeah, they found her sleeping on the floor of some crackhead's house.
Lovely.
Took her in. They got her to go ahead and admit that she did it. And then, of course, the people recovered their horse and they were able to take it home.
That's a beautiful horse, by the way.
I know, beautiful horse and beautiful buggy that went along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, once a year at least, somebody gets killed on the road because of the horse and buggy.
Most interesting comment from the Amish. They said you would recognize the horse and buggy because the horse has a blanket on it, and no one ever leaves a blanket on a horse when it's out, pulling something. That's how they could recognize it.
Okay, I'll take your word for that.
It's quite a beautiful setup, I'll tell you.
It is.
It really is.
It's gorgeous.
Looks like he's like.
Yeah, she was booked. 20,000. How much was it again? The total cost of the fines were
Livestock. If you
$20,000 for the cost of the horse, and $20,000 was put against her for the cost of the buggy. So she was booked on grand larceny for $40,000.
I wonder if she led it away or drove it away.
She drove it away.
She did.
She actually did it. She never did it before, and the horse just listened. But the biggest part was the wife who's on this. She said there's no way anyone could drive that horse because that horse wouldn't listen.
Now there's a typical Amish man right there with the red. That he's typical Amish.
Yeah, but the horse won't listen to the wife. So yeah, gotta have some fun with it. Yeah. I'm figuring out ways to bring this kind of fun stuff in because it is some crazy crash.
Oh, there is. Absolutely.
We just need to reach out to these channels and get permission, Mike, because I think our audience will love some of this shit.
I hope
The
so.
guy on the right, he's like, "Can you believe this?"
Oh, he's the witness. He saw the crackhead come out of Walmart and go ahead and steal the buggy.
Oh my God.
They took him back into the office at Walmart and had him go ahead and identify the woman, and that's the same one they went and picked up in the laying on the bathroom floor in the I'm gonna go in there first. Find her. There she is.
Where'd you go?
That's a nice place, nice and clean.
Yeah.
There she is. They found her on the floor of the shower in that really clean bathroom.
Man. Could use a little redecorating for sure.
Oh.
Yeah, they should maybe put the pipes in the walls instead.
There's on those hers. Yeah, I guess she's using it to keep warm, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, Lord.
You know, just a interesting factoid. The Amish, what they're mostly employed in this part of Indiana is in building cabinet work, doing anything with wood.
Right.
Yes.
Cabinet work, or the Elkhart, Indiana is the home of like all of the RV industry. And so all the woodworking that goes on in those RVs is all done by Amish people.
Oh, they're master craftsmen for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
By the way, we still have some people watching. Everybody has left. If you're having a good time, you're hanging out, you're enjoying the conversation along with enjoying the national security, Daryl. And
two people.
Well, you got 276 people left. If you're still enjoying the show, you're still with us. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And if you haven't given us a thumbs up, we only have 202 likes. We got 400 people here. Come on, folks. Unless
God bless them if they're still here with us, right?
I know. Oh, I went off script. I had to. We were having fun with it. But, I didn't play the clip.
Which one?
Bipartisan disclosure being discussed on The Voice. Not The Voice, I'm sorry. The Five. The View, yeah. Close enough. The View, The Voice, whatever it is, all that shit. Yeah, we're going to have to cover that one tomorrow.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. Then we have to figure out the new schedule, but we'll do it as an audience, let people vote on it.
We could do that too.
I don't know you guys that well, but Daryl, we need to get to at least 444 likes, right?
Yes, Ryan.
No, 777, but we're not going to get there.
Oh, apparently somebody else watched the Luigi story.
Who's Luigi?
Luigi, the guy who did the Bob
52.
Lazar movie. Guy who did the Bob Lazar movie just recently.
Okay.
The director.
Luigi Vendetti, I believe his name is.
A movie I didn't watch. Apparently I didn't miss it either.
His story that we're talking about is way more interesting than the Bob Lazar story. I mean, it's right out of science fiction, but he claims it's real.
Holly Broad says, Thomas, you have to tell us about Lou and Monday. I've been letting little things out here and there. It was a private event, and I've got a bunch of video and a bunch of pictures that I took. I guess I could go ahead and bring it out. And at one time, I was just trying to take pictures, and my phone, I couldn't turn off that goddamn fucking, what is it? Here, volume up. Photo. No, during the show, for some reason, with the other iPhone I've got, it was taking the pictures and it was doing the shutter noise. So it was like, ba-doo, 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 ba-doo. I'm just tearing some photos off, yeah.
Question for Mike.
Yeah.
Making this bathroom turned off.
Question for Mike, I'll tell you tomorrow.
That went by quickly.
Yeah. So, was there a solar flare, Mike?
No, not as far as I know.
Okay. I know they can't interrupt communications at times.
Yeah, it does. You're right.
So there's actually a plugin I can get for Google Meet.
Okay.
$5 a month for a fucking plugin.
And what does it do?
I can turn off the sound effect when people ring the fucking doorbell to come into the show.
Ring the doorbell.
Ding dong. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
God damn it.
They don't mean to ring the doorbell. That's just the way it works.
Well, if I want to turn the fucking doorbell off, I have to pay a tax.
That's all right. You can write it off.
I'll get it and play it. You'll hear it.
$60. $60 a year. I
know.
Every little bit that Google can get their hands on.
Exactly.
Oh, fuck. No, you're going to be kidding me. God damn it. Doesn't have today's special show on here.
What is today's special show?
Fuck it. I'll do it from this way. Let's go ahead and let me call in from the regular show account.
Does this have to do with cucumbers?
Here we go. No.
Okay, good.
That noise.
Yep. That's an annoying noise. Yep.
And then it puts the admit one guess and all that shit up for people who need to see that. If I want to get rid of it, it's $5 a month over a yearly basis. But that way we could go ahead and when people want to join the show, they actually come into the waiting room, but they don't get into the show unless we let them out of the waiting room into the show. So it's another tax we're going to have to pay to give us a little bit more additional controls. I mean, it's like we're paying what, $25, $30 a month right now for Google. We add that additional one and it's $35 a month for the show.
Just charge people you don't know to come into the show. You have the velvet. This is like a club, you know. You got your normal people that you let into the club because they're cool, and then the people.
Yeah, but you have to have a bodyguard, and bodyguards don't work for free.
Well, you got Mike.
Yeah, you do.
I know, but someone has to give Mike the controls to let people in the door or not.
Yes, that would be awesome.
I can give him the fucking flashlight and the little thing, and
where Mike is at the fucking door.
I have the controls to let people in and out of Google Meet already.
No, but it's easy then if we kick them out, right? And they come back in, they can't be entering into the show. They're only coming into the waiting room, and we can just keep them out easier. It's another layer of separation from the general public.
That StreamYards automatically includes, yes, I'm familiar.
Yeah, but they only let 10 people in the back. We already have 20. How many people in the back right now? 12 others.
Yep.
You know, this is kind of the shit we usually talk about after the show. We're so going.
Yeah. What are we doing?
This is the state of disclosure right now. So we're doing show housekeeping live on the air.
I actually thought about that today.
Okay.
I think we need to start giving either a weekly or a daily the state of disclosure every day.
Okay.
Whether it's Fridays for, this is the state of disclosure for Wednesday, June 10th, 2026. Top stories of what's going on, telling, but then we also have to look at where are we at now? Where do we need to get to next? And just keep on the dialogue and adapt it as we go along. Some days it's going to repeat things, but otherwise it gives our audience and everybody a good, headline news approach to what's going on.
Where disclosure is at, where the news cycle is at, where we're at. And where it's going or not going for that matter. Right. You mean like that, right?
Potentially. And if there's things we could have to have different charts showing we're trending one way or the other, stuff like that could work as well. We're just going to need stats for it.
That's too much structure for this program.
No, my friend Daryl, it's a set it and forget it process. Just like with anything that you build with software, you set up the software and the stuff to automatically do the shit to give you the information
Don't make this
you need.
A job.
Huh?
It's like a spreadsheet.
It's fun. But I can see the poll of the day. I can see the poll of the day. I can see that.
On that note. All right. No sound effects. I'm not going to run it because it's going to screw things up. I want to go ahead and let's just do it this. Or is it? Got some super chats tonight.
Nice.
I want to thank FaZe Will. Love you, brother. $50. Haven't seen you in a while, my friend. Thank you for coming around. We miss you and your Cybertruck, if that's what you're still driving. I still wouldn't have gotten rid of the vet. I would have had both. But cool thing, Joseph Syracuse gave us not one. Mr. Dolan, will you ever do a deep dive into Antarctica? Good point. I will bring that up with him, Joseph. I missed that. McCandlish was the guy, yeah. General, right?
McCandlish.
Yeah. And then Maybe Trump is an alien.
Yeah.
Anything's possible these days.
Yeah, but I think we've got the cards have aligned in Washington. We've got the egomaniac in control who wants to go down in history of doing something that no one has ever done before, and it fucks with everybody on the planet. And I think he likes that idea because it's trending. It's the number one thing. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, here's something else. Out of the 250 priorities that the Trump administration currently has, right?
Yeah.
Since the 1 billion results and what's gone on, UFO disclosure has gone to the top 5 for the Trump administration. So if Iran is one of them, UFOs is another.
That's good because you're right. That's what Trump pays attention to, whatever's popular.
Yeah, he does.
Joseph, come on. You got to give him props. At least he's giving us the information that nobody else would find.
Right. No other president before him has admitted publicly about this subject or declassified
And there may not be a
anything.
president that comes after him.
Oh, I doubt it. I don't care what side of the aisle they come from. They're not going to touch this topic.
That's what I'm
No
talking
way.
about. There may not be another one because no one's going to touch it because he already did, you know what I mean? They don't want to touch it because of the toxic. But don't forget, he doesn't have to run for re-election unless he's going for his third term.
This is where the fucking press could really like make a comeback. You know, they start doing, mainstream media starts doing the UFO disclosure events of the day or whatever. Somebody should be pressing it. I mean, they have an opportunity to not drop the ball. And Peter Ducey has been the guy been bouncing the ball for 8 years.
Yeah.
We need more Peter Duceys is what I'm saying. I mean, they need a shift in the media to pay attention to this now.
Apparently, Major General William McCaslin was reportedly contacted by Congress just days before his disappearance.
Yeah, according to who?
I don't know. Nobody.
Not his wife. I can tell you that.
Nobody. Great. Oh, what's that guy's name again that gave us that information? Nobody. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's run with that.
Mike?
Yeah.
I don't want to be sexist or anything.
Right.
Because I can't because I'm a gay man, but I think you may appreciate this. We have a new reporter from America's Voice.
UFO whistleblowers and bipartisan group of lawmakers have now formally called for the declassification of additional.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, let me get this here for Thomas' video guest. Put her full screen. Let's get this here a little bit. No, it's going to go there. God damn it.
Is she actually naked on News Nation?
No, she's not. I'm playing it for you right now. There you go.
Files related to unidentified aerial phenomena.
Because there is a program called Naked News that's been around for
to a disclosure movement that has gained attention in Washington over the last several years. As of now,
they do real news,
evidence
and they
confirming
strip down completely naked.
Origin.
I think what Thomas said was a new reporter, not a nude
No, it's a reporter we haven't seen before.
Oh, I heard nude.
Well,
I
look
heard
at this.
nude also.
Okay, America's Sunshine. There's the kind of people we want to see talking about disclosure, right?
Oh, I don't know about the one on the right.
No.
Congress people, including folks like Anna Paulina Luna, not known to be, drama-creating sort of charge yesterday. And it doesn't seem to be that there is a disconnect. The group of people that were standing there urging the federal government to be more transparent about this, there's not a disconnect there. It's the federal government and their transparency with the American people.
The hair throws you off from her. She's smart.
Marlboro Light shorts.
She's smart.
David Grush, he was the UFO whistleblower that testified before Congress in 2023, confirming that there were reverse engineering programs and that he has seen evidence of non-human biologics, meaning alien life. So while I was at that event yesterday, I wanted to ask him.
She was there at the event with David Grush. This is what I mean. This is where disclosure's finally going to go. We're finally getting some quality reporters. What? No, hell no. This is great. She's really smart. And she's cute, and she's young, and she'll appeal to a wide audience of everybody else besides the old white guys.
And it's News Nation, right?
No, she's from Real America's Voice.
What does that air on?
Bless you.
Oh, The Guardian.
Thank you, sir.
A question about how many species
Nice car, by the way.
if he knows of or is aware
Brian.
of. There were recent reports that there may be 4 Greys Nordic reptilians. I know it sounds crazy.
Cigarettes and a blowjob? Yeah, sounds great.
But you got to see what you have to say, Gina.
I have a question for David Grush. Can you
really
confirm for us
guys, sorry.
how many species? Recent reports have said that there are perhaps 4 different alien species, Greys, Nordics. How many
there was a
species are you
gentleman
aware
that
of?
opened the door, and I said, thank you,
But
sir.
honestly, she gets it.
And he said a pack of Marlboro Lights, we heard.
So a really interesting response.
Grush is a giant.
Luke, look. Over here, she's like a genius with disclosure.
There are several, he says, not confirming that there's only 4. Could be more than that. I think there's a lot more information that the American people want to hear about this, Gina. There have been 2 drops of UAP files.
A new report
I want to know about
last month, and so we are.
You know, everyone's like throwing her out because of the way she looks, but she actually knows everything and talks to this better than Leland Vitter could on a bad day. It's a good day for disclosure, my friends. Well, even the younger people to go ahead and listen. That's what we need. Yeah.
But where is that airing? America's, what does that say?
Real America's Voice.
Is that news?
I'm not sure who does that.
It's not News Nation.
So not mainstream.
I have no idea where they air.
Yes, I'll take care of it this weekend. Yep.
UFO whistleblower.
No, either way, great conversations, my friends.
Oh my God, are we still live?
Yeah, we're still live. My God, yes.
Oh wow, we went almost an hour over.
I know, but people are enjoying it. No, worth about 30 minutes over for that matter. People have been hanging out. We've been dying off slowly, but you know what? As we usually say, my friends, at the end of every episode of Disclosure tonight, eyes open, no fear, be safe, everybody. And if you want to continue this conversation, follow that link at the bottom of the chat to join the back.
Yep.
Cheers, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Love you. See you tomorrow.